Development of our languages in the country. Minister of Arts and Culture has said that the board failed to demonstrate sufficient leadership throughout the term, despite certain interventions from the department and the Portfolio Committee on Arts and Culture. To talk to us a bit more about this topic, we're joined in studio by Professor in Social Anthropology at Wits, David Coplan, Angie Netshiheni from PanSALB, and Professor Pitika Ntuli. Please note that we have tried to engage the ministry to take part, but have not been successful in getting a representative to participate and be part of this conversation. Gentlemen, ma'am, lady, thank you very much for joining me here this morning. And maybe let's start with you, Ma'am Angie, because I think it's very important. The fact that the board has been dissolved, the fact that we're making statements that this board used to promote something that is critical, not only to identity, but to where we find ourselves in a modern South Africa moving forward, that board was important in fostering the development of 11 official languages. It's now been dissolved. Is it a crisis?
Morning to you and morning to our listeners. The dissolving of the board has not affected the office. That is the issue between the board and the Minister of Arts and Culture. As the office, we are continuing to function. As a matter stands, we are currently busy developing our strategy for finalizing it for 2016-2017. And just to add to what you have said, we're not only responsible for the 11 official languages, but our mandate also includes the promotion of the development of the Khoi Sign languages and the South African Sign Language, and also to promote and ensure respect for all languages used by communities in South Africa, including languages used for religious purposes.
Professor Coplan, let me bring you into this conversation. When I listen to Ma'am Angie and she says there isn't a crisis, it's still business as usual, everybody understands the structure, understands the nature of the role the board plays. And as she said, it's not only the 11 languages, but it's Khoisan, it's sign languages, all of that as well. The mere fact that the ministry is saying that they haven't fulfilled their term, they haven't prescribed to their mandate, they've offered interventions and it's still failed. Are we looking at a crisis situation? Are we downplaying the situation? Is it as serious as we think it is? Maybe it's not that serious?
Well, there are two ways perhaps to look at it. I don't personally really think so, because a culture at that level of language is also in the hands of our people first. And you meet people around even this town, Johannesburg, where people come from everywhere. I don't get the feeling that people are downgrading their languages in any way. You hear them all, they are getting developed. If someone, around town only speaks, say, one or two of our languages, people say, oh, the poor guy, he only speaks Tswana and English, he's handicapped. So the people themselves are very, I think, energetic about, modernizing and coming along with their languages. As far as government is concerned...
But they have a role to play, government, to make
sure that they do for official things, official things, and the Khoisan ones, the ones that are smaller or maybe in danger of things, they have a role to play, but it's not really a crisis. Part of the problem is budget, of course. It's difficult for the board of an institution to achieve all of the ideals that are set forward when we have, of course, very limited budgets, the wonderful plans, which then again, difficult because in the meetings I've been in with the CRL, which protects minority language rights and religion and so on, it turns out to be a lot more expensive to go into the depths of the countryside and get people organize, get the research actually happening, young people from our university, and pursue all of these wonderful ideals and goals.
Yeah, but here are specific things, Professor Pitika and Ntuli, that I want to bring in. It's things that the Minister of Arts and Culture has pointed out. Them has failed to demonstrate sufficient leadership throughout its term, despite certain interventions from the department and the Portfolio Committee on Arts and Culture. I understand what Professor is saying, that in the day-to-day action, people are using their language, but government has a very specific role to play. You can't underestimate the role the government plays in fostering those minority languages, even making sure that we've seen so many issues in social media over the last couple of days, last couple of months, in the way people have used language.
Yeah, I mean, government has instituted the Pan South African Language Board, for the purposes that Angie has so aptly described. After 21 years, I think the minister felt that there is no sufficient kind of research. It is the fulfillment of that kind of a mandate is it's non-existent, if at all, just a little. So in other words, is that the question that needs to be asked is, what kind of people get into these boards? And the people who get into these boards are not lateral thinkers. They will lock themselves within PanSALB and isolate themselves from language departments, in universities and in schools, and in also other very practical reasons. And I think again, in my conversation, with minister, because I had raised this issue sometime back. Sometimes the attendance of board members, as Angie will agree, becomes erratic. Now we distinguish now between the office itself that
manages
that manages the day-to-day
operations.
Yeah, they are doing what they have actually to do. But in many instances, from where I am sitting, they tend to be let down by the people who sit actually into those boards, the extent or the limits of their vision.
But I would argue, and maybe from a very layman's perspective, not operating on your level, that sometimes our perception is our reality. If you read an article, or you read a board has been dissolved, or you read that it affects the promotion of languages, in your mind you become an alarmist, because when it doesn't matter which board it is, but the moment you hear a board has been dissolved, insufficient leadership, in your mind it's a crisis, Mamaji. From an ordinary person's perspective.
Yes, I agree with you. From a layman's perspective, it is like that. But with us, within PanSALB, as staff members, together with our CEO, we've decided that business has to go on, and we need to identify gaps as to why we've not performed the way we are expected.
Why have you not performed?
PanSALB has had very many challenges between 2008 up to around last year or year before last. And with the appointment of the two CEOs later, within 2014-15, there has been an improvement to a point where we are now. We've seen that there is a disjuncture between how we function and not involving the academic institutions, without involving other language development agencies. And for this reason, in our strategy, we've made that one of our priorities, that we need to actually renew our partnerships with the academic institutions, so that we benefit from their academic research portion. Also, the House
Angie,
of Tradition.
I need to take an ad break. When we come back, let's develop your answer a little bit further, because I want to bring in Professor Coplan here and talk about some of those interventions and some of those relationships you say that needs to be developed, because a lot of people may argue that it's not the first time we've heard it, but why is it taking so long for us to build these relationships? Okay, so we take an ad break here on Morning Live. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation.
Health Talk looks into the increase of suicide and symptoms leading to suicide.
The death wish grows when you go into depression after a lot of stress.
And often when we talk about suicide, we don't talk about a person wanting to stop living, but rather wanting to stop living in pain.
After losing everything in life that lead you to no options but suicide.
I had that spirit of fear in me to say, don't even face tomorrow.
After being overwhelmed with stress and trauma, it becomes difficult to have self-control.
People learning tools and skills that will practically enable them to meet these challenges.
In trying times, never be alone. Reach out for help to a better solution.
Support should be done by a counselor or psychologist, where you're able to speak about How are you feeling in a safe, accepting, non-judgmental space?
For all your health tips, join Dr. Silo Mutawung every Saturday from 9 till 10.
Get all the latest news from the SABC's online news services on our website. Breaking news and in-depth coverage of everything from business, sports to politics and lifestyle. Catch the top news clips and watch live streaming of major news events on the SABC News YouTube channel whenever. Stay connected on the SABC News Facebook page and have your say on news that matters to you. And for the latest headlines and live updates from our reporters, follow us on Twitter. SABC Digital News, anytime, anywhere.
Looking for social issues?
It is not our intention to give condoms to 10-year-old children.
We are here to assist you. Looking for religious issues?
The point is not for the church to try and prove whether this is the fact.
So we want accountability. Is there a system of governance in your churches?
Political issues.
Barack Obama said Africa should stop looking to the outside for salvation and focus on someone else being at fault for the problems of the continent.
Economic issues.
The young mothers, single mothers that's buying property now.
Or just looking to air your views.
Here are some of your views on social media.
Look no further, as Newsroom has all the informative information you need. Weekdays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Live. I do want to note that we did invite the Department of Arts and Culture and they refused. We are continuing with our discussion on the Minister of Arts and Culture's decision to dissolve the Pan-African Languages Board. We are still joined in studio by Professor in Social Anthropology at Wits, David Coplan, Angie and Netshiheni from PanSALB, and Professor Pitika and Ntuli. Ma'am, I interjected a little bit earlier before we went to break, and you were talking about multiple interventions. One of them was bringing in the academic arm and reigniting or re-establishing those relationships.
Yes, it is not only academic institutions, but we are looking at broader institutions within society that are involved in language matters, and also that those who can assist PanSALB, especially in the promotion of the awareness of the importance of the languages in South Africa.
Yeah, sorry, and very quickly, you want to wrap up your answer?
Yes, I would like to indicate that among these, it is the House of Traditional Leaders, our arts sections, anybody that deals with language, irrespective of whether it's in a formal way or informal way, would like to bring all those together because we think it is very, very important in the development of languages.
Professor, I'm going to bring you into this conversation because I think that one of the things that Mme. Angie was touching on was some idea of some kind of measures that could be put in place. We have real issues on the ground, though. Whether the board was involved in the day-to-day operations or not, there is a perception that's been created. If you're talking about insufficient leadership, you also suspect then that it moves from the head straight through to the body. But as you're saying, if we're talking about languages dying, it hasn't died out in 200 years. We're talking about languages dying out on the streets, and yet people are from all walks of life speaking different languages, meeting each other.
Yes, they are. I mean, I'm optimistic about the strength and health of ordinary culture in the country because people do use those languages when that's the way to come across. There's an awful lot of moaning on the part of our older generation, that the young people are not getting the culture and we're allowing our culture to die. But, these young people here, they are revitalizing it every day in music and performance in all sorts of ways. The English is very big, but of course it would be because it's our access to the world. That doesn't mean that it operates at the expense of Zulu or Sotho in Johannesburg, which are even more commonly spoken.
I want to bring Professor Pitika Ntuli because he doesn't agree with you. One of the things here, Professor, and I saw you're nodding your head, are we being too simplistic about the outlook on languages?
I think we are. I think we definitely are. Now, 2 years ago, I was asked by the Minister of Higher Education to chair a panel to advise him on the development of indigenous languages in higher education. We visited 23 of the universities, talking to senior management, to staff, as well as to students. The way the students felt that they've been really let down. Their students were very brilliant, physicists, but because of the poverty of the language and not understanding, it becomes therefore the responsibility of an institutional, constitutional body like PanSALB and its board, to be able to see actually through these matters, and also to push them. I want to push
are you maybe saying that PanSALB up to this point, we hear Mum Angie talking about potential interventions, strategies, all of that, has actually underperformed?
No, they're definitely underperformed. There are no results that actually showed that there's been I think a couple of years ago when say people like Professor Muleleki, who's an academic, there the research was beginning to come out. But inevitably, then the board began squabbling, with itself, and scuppered up all the achievements that they were moving, towards. The minister got no choice, I suppose, but to dissolve, the board.
I've got no time, ma'am. I've got 20 seconds that I'm going to give you. I'm going to take these 20 seconds. You've got 20 seconds, quickly, very quickly.
I want to talk on the issues that are mentioned by Prof. Pitika.
Yeah.
They are very true. There was a time when PanSALB was not delivering on its mandate because the budget was then used for other things other than the promotion of the development of languages. And this really led to the failure of PanSALB to deliver on its mandate. And now we are trying to revive that, to say the public was aware of what we are doing.
For sure.
And we were making progress, but this progress stopped somewhere at a point.
Ma'am, unfortunately, I've got to cut you, and I think we'll continue this conversation because it's a very important conversation. We need to continue this. From PanSALB, it's Ma'am Angie Netshiheni, Professor of Social Anthropology at Wits, Dr. Coplan, and Professor Pitika Ntuli, who's a regular, he's actually a presenter, joining us here talking about the dissolution of the Pan-South African Language Board. Let's take an ad break.